A controversy has erupted around the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade after its organizers reversed a decision to make the Army whistleblower Bradley Manning an honorary Grand Marshal. Manning's nomination was approved last week, but was soon rescinded after coming under criticism from gay Republicans and service members. A protest was held outside the San Francisco Pride office to oppose the reversal earlier this week. Referring to Manning's ongoing military trial, the demonstrators chanted, "They say court-martial, we say grand marshal."
Against their local pride committees, demand that politics be put back on the pride agenda.
We'd have a list of demands for the march. It wasn't a parade, it was a march. It was a protest march, and we'd have a list of demands. And our demands always included things like end the Vietnam War, up until '74 when it ended. And then it would be like free the Black Panthers.
And I mean politics in the sense of demanding affordable housing, good jobs, access to health care.
That's what we stood for. We stood for a coalition with all other struggles because we knew that we were part of a bigger struggle. And I think Pride lost it a long time ago.
Let more upstairs! Let more upstairs! Let more upstairs! Let more upstairs!
Come on, fire.
I know a little bit about whistleblowing and making sure that those folks get protection.
Let's talk about Bradley Manning, the Army private accused of supplying WikiLeaks with all of those revelations.
He is held in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day.
Clear violation of multiple codes of the Uniform Code of Military Conduct.
The overall conditions of confinement are horrific.
This is Bradley Manning, filmed at the opening of a Boston University Computer Society. He smiles, almost flirts at the camera. 4 months later, in May, Manning is a nervous wreck, chatting online to a famous hacker called Adrian Lamo. Online conversations which lead to his arrest, accused of the biggest intelligence leak in US military history.
Light them all up. 202 traffic, 260. Come on, fire.
This video, known as Collateral Murder, will always be linked to Bradley Manning's name. It was released by the WikiLeaks website. It shows 2 American helicopter pilots admiring their work after they opened fire on suspected insurgents.
Oh yeah, look at those dead bastards. Nice. 2-6, Crazy Horse 1-8.
He was very, very worried about the country's future, and that's because he loved America.
All our efforts are aimed at a clear goal: a free Iraq that can protect its people, support itself economically, and take charge of its own political affairs.
By the time he returned, America was immersed in 2 deadly wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Bradley Manning was 17. He wandered the country looking for a job in IT and a life. The jobs came and went, so he slept in his red pickup truck and wondered what was next. He desperately wanted to go to university, but joining the army and getting a military scholarship was the only way to pay for it. It would be a terrible price. Boston was a place where he felt free to be himself, intellectually and sexually. He was happy with Tyler, the man he loved. He attended gay rights demonstrations. And the day of his deployment to Iraq, his boyfriend Tyler attended a rally with a placard declaring himself to be an army wife. Manning's army wife.
It's Boston, you know. In Boston, you don't really ask these questions about gay or straight or really think about it, because it's not the measure of the person.
But Boston also held other attractions for Bradley Manning. This was where he was able to make contact with students at the prestigious MIT and Boston universities, the computer elite of America.
Some people call it this hacker culture in Boston. The name's actually a little bit misleading. What it really is, it's a very profound culture that is predicated on self-empowerment through technology with the goal of achieving some good social end.
Things may have been going well in Boston, but back on base, his commanding officers were again raising the alarm about sending him to Iraq. One said, "I felt he was a risk to himself and others." He was showing signs of instability, said another. But they were ignored, and Bradley Manning went to Iraq. He was sent to Forward Operating Base Hammer, 35 kilometers east of Baghdad.
It was in the middle of a desert. There was sand everywhere. We had dust storms, probably quite often, I don't know, once a month or so, as far as while I was there. It was not fun. It was nothing to do there, totally bored, and a bleak place. Everything was brown over there.
There was a fog. There was like a fog that would come in almost every morning that was pollution from nearby that just smelled sour and nasty and would wave through and linger and just, I don't know, it'd create an eerie atmosphere.
The morale, I think, generally was really low for everyone that was there that I talked to. All the soldiers pretty much didn't like it. Nobody had a purpose out there, so I think that affected a lot of people.
It's not clear what happened, but in December, his superiors took the bolt out of his gun. He was considered unfit to be carrying a functioning weapon. But there was still light at the end of the tunnel for Bradley Manning. He was going back to Boston at the end of the month, to freedom and to Tyler Watkins. But it was not the homecoming he was expecting.
It was kind of like an emailed Dear John letter. It ended seemingly abruptly, but Brad didn't really know that. I don't know if he just wasn't accepting it or if he just hadn't fully understood that his relationship was over.
Within days of his breakup, he turns up here at the launch party of Boston University's free hackerspace.
We had about 150 people that showed up to builds, and they were all just beautiful people, really, really advanced human beings.
This scene caught inadvertently on camera is the only footage of Bradley Manning.
Bradley Manning came in during this open house and toured the room remarked a little bit about the computers in the room and about the power tools, and kind of showed through his lingo that he got what was happening, that he understood the culture. He seemed highly intelligent. That much was very obvious. He has this kind of presence about him that you understand really quickly. He's very highly intelligent.
But a few days after the party, it's back to Iraq, where morale and security in the intelligence section where he's working is deteriorating.
The laptop's sitting there with passwords. Everybody writes, like I said, you write their password down on a sticky note and set it by the computer. There wasn't a lot of security going on. If someone came into, let's say, the office I was in, the headquarter area I was in when I was on duty watching things, and they jumped on a computer, and I didn't necessarily knew them, but they're in uniform and all that good stuff, and they're on a computer, I'm not going to say, hey, whoa, excuse me, what are you doing, sir? You can't do that. I'm just going to be like, whatever.
This stuff was all in like a folder. It was like, it had like a generic name or whatever, so nobody would look into it, but it was all just set there for entertainment. That was pretty much the point of the folder. It was entertainment, and it had a mix of games, sex, and violence. They love to watch these clips of Apaches gunning down people and whatnot. This is definitely entertainment.
All rise.
So our 39A session is called to order. Let the record reflect all parties present when the court last recessed or again present in court. POC Manning. You may read your statement.
Yes, Your Honor. I wrote the statement in confinement, so I'll start now. Following facts are provided in support of the Providence Inquiry for my court-martial, United States versus PFC Bradley E. Manning. Personal facts. I am a 25-year-old private first class in the United States Army. My primary military occupational specialty, or PMOS, is 35 Foxtrot, intelligence analyst. I entered active duty status on 2 October 2007. I enlisted with the hope of obtaining both real-world experience and earning benefits under the GI Bill for college opportunities. My recruiter informed me that I should select an MOS that complemented my interests outside the military. In response, I told him that I was interested in geopolitical matters and information technology. He suggested I consider becoming an intelligence analyst. Facts regarding the unauthorized storage and disclosure of the 12 July 2007 aerial weapons team video. The video depicted several individuals being engaged by an aerial weapons team. At first, I did not consider the video very special, as I had viewed countless other war-porn type videos depicting combat. However, the recorded audio comments by the aerial weapons team crew and the second engagement in the video of an unarmed bongo truck troubled me. It was clear to me that the event happened because the aerial weapons team mistakenly identified Reuters employees as a potential threat, and that the people in the bongo truck were merely attempting to assist the wounded. The people in the van were not a threat, but merely good Samaritans. The most alarming aspect of the video to me, however, was the seemingly delightful bloodlust the aerial weapons they appeared to have. They dehumanized the individuals they were engaging and seemed to not value human life by referring to them as, quote, dead bastards, unquote, and congratulating each other on the ability to kill in large numbers. At one point in the video, there's an individual on the ground attempting to crawl to safety. The individual is seriously wounded. Instead of calling for medical attention to the location, one of the aerial weapons team crew members verbally asked for the wounded person to pick up a weapon so that he can have a reason to engage. For me, this seems similar to a child torturing ants with a magnifying glass. Shortly after the second engagement, a mechanized infantry unit arrives at the scene. Within minutes, the aerial weapons team crew learns that children were in the van, and despite the injuries, the crew exhibits no remorse. Instead, they downplay the significance of their actions, saying, quote, well, it's their fault for bringing their kids into a battle, unquote. For me, it's all a big mess, and I'm left wondering what these things mean and how it all fits together, and it burdens me emotionally. I saved a copy of the video on my workstation. At the time, I placed the video and rules of engagement information onto my personal laptop on about 21 February 2010. I used the WLO submission form and uploaded the documents. The WLO released the video on 5 April 2010.
Dan Ellsberg, as we wrap up here, I'm wondering if you could share with us your impressions of Bradley Manning as you listen to him speak, and if you could compare, how does the treatment of him by the liberal press, by the New York Times, and Democratic lawmakers compare to how you were treated back in the 70s?
Pretty much the same. The Times, I think, thinks of leakers wrongly as having clearly broken the law. Bill Keller, by saying that the other day, and Max Frankel, by calling what I did an act of civil disobedience. That's what I thought when I did it. I thought I was breaking a law that would put me in jail for the rest of my life, and indeed I was made those charges. And yet, in fact, what my lawyers discovered was that such a law had never been used to criminalize the release of such information. To this day, 60 years, 40 years later, the Supreme Court has never ruled on that opinion. And the best judgment is that we have not passed a law that criminalized release of all classified information. Congress did pass such a law in 2000, and President Clinton vetoed it. Obviously, President Obama would not veto it now. Bill Keller is under the mistaken, stupid impression that it exists right now, so that the law was broken. As for the picture of Bradley Manning, what we've heard are people like the New York Times who've consistently slandered him, such as in the false statement on Sunday that he was vague and couldn't think of specific instances that had led him to inform the American people or injustices. The American people can now, for the first time, hear Bradley in his own words, emotionally and in the greatest specific detail, tell it was that he felt that needed revelation, in which the Times had not felt. So, in fact, the idea that he was just a boy who was indiscriminately dumping out everything he could, when in fact he personally had access to material higher than top secret, higher than Bill Keller has ever seen, in a war which Bill Keller has never served in, which can reveal to him that information, people should have that information. He chose not to put out the top secret or communications intelligence to which he clearly had access, as stated in his. He put on only material that he felt would be embarrassing, and which 3 years later we can say was only embarrassing, only important enough and newsworthy enough to topple two dictators in the Middle East, more effectively, I would say, than I managed to do. I helped topple one would-be dictator with minimal help from the New York Times, who covered my trial as, quote, a happening, rather than the legal issues which their reporter at the time never did grasp.
Greetings from Anonymous. The United States government is seeking to end the Constitution. This will endanger the American people, and we will not stand by and watch while this government of deception prepares to rip away from us all of the freedoms that our forefathers granted us. the freedoms that were fought for, bled for, that our ancestors died for. We must ensure that blood was not shed in vain, that their lives were indeed lost for a great nation that is not yet lost. We refuse to let the United States government destroy our way of life. The United States government insists on labeling us as terrorists. The question is, who do we terrorize? Is it probable that the United States government is truly afraid of we, the people? Nevertheless, the time for action is now. It is time to remind the government that we, the American people, are the ones who hold the power of this country. We are not calling upon the people to once again occupy a city or protest in front of a local building. This has not brought on us any legislative change or alternate law. It has only brought us bloodshed and false criticism. For the last 12 years, voting has been useless. Corporations and lobbyists are the true leaders of this country and are the ones with the power to control our lives. To rebuild our government, we must first destroy it. Our time for democracy is here. Our time for resolution is here. This is America's time for revolution. To restore our constitutional rights. We refuse to be a police state. We refuse to be brutalized and dehumanized by the very people our tax dollars fund to protect our cities and streets. We will not allow the government to control our destiny, our right to build a life for ourselves. We have waited long enough. The Declaration of Independence establishes the supremacy of the people and the right and duty to defend the rights of the people over the acts of the government. Our Constitution provides for as many protections as possible to ensure that the government is subservient to the people and only exists for the purpose of serving the people. However, should these protections fail, it is up to the people to rise up against the government and to put the government back in its place. In this capacity, the people act as the fourth branch of government to take control and to override their decisions that violate the fundamental rights of the people to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. By what means do the people exercise their authority over the government? That depends on how resistant the government is to complying with the will of the people. In the case of the Declaration of Independence, it meant declaring war on the government and overthrowing them. This is obviously a last resort after taking other steps less harsh. Have we not tried? It is clearly the right and the duty of the American people to overthrow the government in order to restore the United States as a government to serve the people. This is clearly established in historical precedent. This is that time.